Welcome everyone. Well, the first question I have for you, for the few of you that are in the room, is are you doing any type of project management within your organization now? And just a yes or no will be good. No, no, yes, a few. Okay, all right, cool. So I'm curious, maybe even after the luncheon hour we can talk a little bit about how what you're going to see in Project Online compares to what you're doing currently. So this slide basically talks about what we're trying to do with Simplex PM. So Simplex PM is here for you to help increase your project management maturity in your organization. So typically, when we used to hear about project management within an organization, it was the big guys. It was the key banks and the progressives of the world that did, the heavy project management. And that's typically because project managers are expensive, and the software was expensive, and the hardware is expensive. But now with Project Online, it's gotten to be a lot more affordable, which is making it a lot more available to the small to mid-sized companies. So there's three main, pillars or areas that we focus on when we're talking about project management for the small to mid-sized companies. And it's your people, your tools, and your processes. So a lot of organizations already have folks that are doing some sort of project management, whether you call it project management or not. Sometimes it's just getting stuff done. You've got this job you have to do, and it might not be called a project, but it's something you have to do, and there are tasks in it, and people are doing it, and somebody's tracking it. So we can help your project managers or your office managers or your technicians, whoever is doing the project work, use Project Online, kind of get familiar with some of the project management methodologies. Your tools is where you focus on what tools you're going to use, and typically it's going to be Microsoft Project or Project Online. There's some SharePoint with Project Online as well, so you'll see that a little bit in the demo. And then your process. So you've got all this great project management stuff in place, but what does it mean if nobody uses it? Or what does it mean if you track this project but then don't know what to do with it when it ends? Why did I keep my project schedule up to date? What kind of value am I going to get out of comparing the actual, what actually happened versus what I thought would happen? So we'll help you develop your process to get you from the beginning to the end and do some analysis there after your projects are over. So those are the three main areas that we focus on. The main tools that we will talk about, mainly today we're going to focus on Project Online. There's a couple different versions of Project Online that are available to you. But there's Project Online, Project Pro, and Project Lite. So how many of you are familiar with Microsoft Project? Heard of it? Okay, cool. Heard of it? Okay, great. You're the expert in the room. All right, so Microsoft Project has been around for a long time. It's designed to help you create your project schedule. So you go into Microsoft Project and you can add a couple tasks and say how long they're going to take and who's going to do them. In Project Online, it's a lot of the same capabilities, but as its name would insinuate, it's all online. It's in the cloud, so it's a part of the 365 suite. It's cheaper. You have a monthly subscription. What I really like about it is there's a couple different versions of Project Online. So there's a Lite version that can be used for folks that are actually not developing the project schedules, but are actually working on the tasks. So they need to use it just a little bit, but not a lot. That's like $7 a month, 7 or 9. So it's a lot more affordable if you really step back and plan how you're going to purchase those subscriptions. Not everybody in your organization might need a full subscription to Project Online. All right, so here's a fun little slide. Just talks about how to collaborate with others when working with projects. So basically, project management is all about getting stuff done. So communicating your progress from start to finish, getting your projects done, keeping everybody aware of what's going on. One of the things that's most frustrating when we're managing our projects is if there's a task that, let's say, for some reason finishes sooner than you expect, then sometimes a project manager has to try to find the resource that's going to do the next task and tell them to start it sooner. The person doesn't know that this person finished it. So there's a lot of communication that goes on in the project management. So the nice thing about Project Online and Microsoft Project is a lot of that is automated and electronic. So when my task is done, I get a notification that I can move on to the next task, things like that. So I hate the term one-stop shop because I think it's way overused, but it is sort of a centralized location for tracking your project information. Another nice thing about using Project Pro opposed to Project Online, when you use through Office 365. I think the best thing about this slide is that second one, the 5 installs per user, because I can have it installed on multiple laptops, my iPad, whatever notebook I have, and stay in constant contact with my, with my project and my project team. So I want to show you a little bit about what Project Online can do. Well, for those of you that are familiar with Microsoft Project, and for those of you that aren't for that matter, Project Online is very, very similar. A lot of times I get asked, well, if it's so similar, why are there 2 different products? Microsoft Project, the full Microsoft Project that you purchase and install on your computer, is great for project managers, for the folks that are really going to be looking at that project schedule, making changes, analyzing data, running reports. They're the ones that are in there every day, all day long, making changes. Project Online is great. You can still make changes to your project schedule. You can still add tasks, but it's a lot, it's more geared towards somebody who's not managing that project every day. They might be somebody's backup. They might go in and add a task here or there. Also, Project Online can be used for your project team members to track their own tasks, which is what I want to show you here as well. So let me show you a little bit about what Project Online looks like. So here I just went to the main project page, and this is all customizable. You can change this as you need to for your organization. But I'm just going to take you into the project center that we built for the demo. This is an example, or this is a image of all of the projects that we have going on at any given time. Okay, so here are all of my projects, and it's really nice. I can see the start and the finish of all of these projects. And I can see it mapped out in my Gantt chart. And I can see the gray area represents the % complete. So if you're trying to plan out your project activity for the year, this is a great way for you to get a good overall view of, what do I have going on right now? What's coming down the road? Are my projects, are they 50% complete? Have I not started them yet? Just a really great overall view of your project activity. From here, I can click on a project and view the project details. So this is what's very similar to Microsoft Project, and this is what we can do in Project and in Project Online. So here I can see all of the details of my project. Okay. So I can see my tasks, I can see various information about those tasks, and I can see the Gantt chart. Okay. Oops. I can look at some additional information. So I see when it starts and finishes, and I also see who's going to do that work. Okay. This entire schedule can be developed in Microsoft Project and then saved to Project Online so that everybody who has Project Online can view the schedule, or it can be created right in Project Online. It's just a preference. In Project Online, I can still add tasks, I can still remove them and move them around, but some of the reporting capabilities are a little bit more limited in Project Online. Like I said before, usually it's the project managers that will still use Microsoft Project Pro, and then everybody else that'll use Project Online. Another nice thing here is, in addition to viewing all of my project information, if I'm a project team member, let's say that I'm somebody who's assigned tasks in my project, and I work for a company where I have lots of tasks assigned to me in different projects. So I'm working on 10 different projects all at one time. I've got a couple tasks assigned to me throughout those multiple projects. Sounds pretty common probably for a lot of organizations. What's really nice is the task view. So this is ideal for somebody who's working on tasks within a project. Here I can see the project name. It's broken out by project, and then these are my tasks that I have to do within the project. Okay. So I can see when I'm supposed to start those tasks and when they're supposed to finish. Ideally, since I'm the one working on those tasks, I Ideally, I would have been consulted. Did you have a question?
Can you manipulate the start date and or the end date?
Yes, and yes. If I'm the project manager, a lot of it depends on how it's set up. If I'm the project manager, I can set up the start and the finish date. I like to set up the start date and then put in the duration of how long I think it'll take, or the work of how long I think it'll take, and then link those tasks together. So that if something in the schedule before shifts, everything else is linked to that and it'll shift and sort of fall into place. Project, I always say project likes it when you tell it when it's going to start and the duration, and it likes to tell you when it's going to finish. But you can enter a start and a finish date. So that's why I say when you said, when you said and or, I had to think about that for a minute. So yes, you can do both, but I always like to just do the start and then add the duration or the work. So yeah.
My question is, probably a silly one, is it the task manager or the project manager the one that does all those tasks, puts all those tasks in
Puts
there
all of
and
them in?
populates that program?
Ideally, it's the project manager with input from their team members. So a good project manager will go to their team members and will go to the person doing this task and say, you know, hey, we have to do this task. How long do you think it'll take? And somebody say, I don't know. And that's where a project manager says, well, you know, give me the best case scenario and give me the worst case scenario. You know, give me an average. How long do you think it'll take if, you know, whatever. And then depending on the project manager, you choose, do you want to plan on the worst case, the best case, the average, what have you. So a lot of project managers will just throw in some dates, and that's fine, but I think it's best if you can get the buy-in from the team members that are doing that task. So to answer your question, technically, the project manager is the one that actually types in the duration or the work that's estimated, but behind the scenes, it would be with input from the team member. We would hope. Now, the nice thing about this task view for team members, let me scroll down to one that I haven't updated. About this one. Now, if I'm working on this task, go back. The nice thing is, your team members can provide status updates throughout the project. So, where did that one go? Here we go. Manage process data, let's say. I was supposed to do this, back a few months ago. So let's say that I'm finished with it. No, let's lie. Let's say I'm 50% finished. I can type in 50% in the work complete field, so I'm done with it. But what's nice is I can also manipulate, as a team member, as somebody who only has the $7 subscription, I can change the remaining work. So I can say, okay, I'm 50% complete, but now that I've worked on it, I realize that I need another week of work to do, or I need another 20 hours, or what have you. So right now it looks like I have 28 hours remaining, but I'm going to say, no, you know what, now that I'm working on it, I realize that I need 20 more hours. So I'm going to change that to 48 hours. Okay? Now, what's nice is, as a team member, I have the ability to change my own tasks. I can enter my actual data for my tasks. I can say when I started it, when I finished it, how much is remaining. But the project manager or the project scheduler, the one that's responsible for that project schedule, is the only one that can approve my change as a task, as a team member. So I can say, okay, I'm 50% complete, but it has to go to that project manager for approval. Once they approve it, then those changes are incorporated in the project schedule. Yes.
Hard would it be to add, you realize, yeah, I've got 5 more tasks I overlooked.
Yeah.
The ball rolling.
Yeah, not hard at all. And this is actually what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I hope you join the webinar tomorrow, because when we first start a project, when we first start planning a project schedule, you know, some people say, well, how do we know what's going to happen? You don't know what's going to happen when you plan this project schedule. How could you possibly know? And there's truth in that. We don't know. But we have to start with some sort of plan. So your project schedule is your plan. It's what you intend to do. You know, this is what we're going to do. We're going to spend a couple weeks on this, 3 weeks on that, and we're going to get the project done. At that point, once you have your plan in place, everybody's agreed on it, you've got your approvals, whatever, right before you start working on it, is when we save what's called the baseline. So that's when we save a snapshot of our project. Now, this is what we plan to do. And then once you start working on that project, you'll find that you'll run into areas where, okay, you need to add some tasks, or some tasks take longer or shorter, or you need to add more resources to a task. Basically, things happen, things change. So you can add tasks to your project, but you always have that original baseline to compare your actuals to. So at the end of the project, or even throughout the project, you want to be able to have access to reports that say, okay, this is what we thought we were going to do, and then this is what we're actually doing. So you can see, okay, throughout the project, we're running a week behind, we're running over budget, or vice versa, so that there are no surprises at the end of the project. Oh, good question. Not hard to do to add additional tasks. As a team member, as somebody with the $7 subscription, I have access to my tasks. I can change the actual information of my task. And when I say change, I really mean propose to change, because everything goes back to the person who's handling the project schedule. And when I say project manager, that term is used loosely. Sometimes it's a project scheduler, or a COO, or whoever is handling that project schedule. But I can change my project information, or my task information. I can change the start, finish date, remaining work, percentage of work. I can propose new tasks. So a lot of times, like what you're saying, how do I know if there are more tasks that need to be added? Once my team members start working on a task, if they find that there are new tasks that need to be added, they can propose that new tasks are added, and that also goes to the project manager for approval. And then what's nice, if you're the project manager, once you hit approve, all those changes are made to the project schedule. So it's a lot nicer than getting an email and saying, hey, I would like to add all these tasks, and then you have to go back to project, type it all out, add all your links and everything else.
So they add it in, and then the project manager approves it.
Right.
Okay.
And if you decide that you don't want to approve it, if you reject it, then those changes just vanish, go into cyberspace. It's like it never happened. Yeah, good question.
Can you manipulate their request to change that particular line item?
You can. In that case, I would accept it, and then I would probably manually go back and make changes. Yep. Or you can reject it completely, and then manually make changes. Yep. Yep. What I like about this is a lot of times in status meetings, we end up sitting around a table in a conference room and saying, okay, how far along are you? How far along are you? How far along are you? And we spend an hour, listening to everybody's progress. What's nice about using a system like this is that they can go in and manually enter everything they need to enter. And then you can use those status meetings for more valuable conversations, like, okay, I see a variance here, or why didn't you start this task back here? Or, hey, we're running ahead on this. Can you start now? So it makes it doesn't take place of any project meetings or any status discussions that you might have, but I think it makes them a little bit more valuable in that you're not going from person to person asking for status. And in that example, then the project manager still has to go back and update the project schedule. So here they just have to accept or reject those changes.
How many people can sign on to this? Because I saw you have license for 5 installs. Do you?
I don't know of a limit of how many people can sign on. Do you, Bob?
Yeah, well, the subscription, and this is true for everything across 365, is a subscription is associated with the user.
Okay.
So if you subscribe one license of the Project Pro subscription or the Project Online subscription, you then assign that to a user. Now, they may install it on 5 different machines.
Oh, okay.
That's 5 different machines for that one user.
Okay.
So if you have, traditionally it would be you would subscribe to the online and possibly the Project Pro, one subscription or combination for each of your project managers. And then for each person who's responsible for updating the tasks, you would sign up for one subscription of the Project Lite.
Okay.
Okay?
So that'd be like $7 times the number of people
Right.
per month.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And as Patty said, the part of the whole challenge with project management is that communication of where are we now?
Cool.
Are we there yet? Did you do your thing? I don't know, what was my thing? I gave you my thing, all that kind of give and take. There is a tremendous, the technical integration of this information is only part of the challenge. Part of the challenge, and in some cases a bigger part of the challenge, is to get the organization to do it that way.
Yeah.
So that the people who are responsible for for these tasks go to the site and just enter in their information there, as opposed to, like Patty said, to wait for that weekly update meeting.
Right.
So then we'll say, yeah, I was supposed to do it last week. Yeah, I didn't. You know, it ends up being a lot easier for everybody to go this route, but sometimes it's organizationally, it's a cultural shift, a cultural change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of time to be saved too in doing this, because like you said, in those weekly meetings, you know, if I go to my weekly meeting on Friday and say, oh yeah, I did that on Monday, and you're waiting for me to finish my task, you say, well, thanks a lot, Patty, you should have told me that, you know, a week ago. Whereas, you know, if you're using a system like this, you know, you see when I'm done with my task. You're aware of anything that's dependent on any of your tasks. Now, another nice thing with, just to focus on the Project Lite version for a moment, that's the $7 version. You have access to anything that you saw in the tasks view, so I can see the list of all my tasks and multiple projects. I can send my status. You also will be able to see all of the projects in your organization. So you still have access to that very first screen we saw. And then what you're looking at now is the project details of one of the projects. So you don't lose that view of the entire project schedule. You know, just because I only have a $7 version and I'm only looking at, you know, my tasks, I can still go back and look at the entire project schedule, so I can see where my tasks fall into the, you know, to the bigger picture. This view is nice. I can, you know, just very simply zoom in and zoom out to be able to see the entire project schedule. I have different views that can control my columns of data. So right now you're seeing things like, you know, leveling delay and start and finish, but I can change that view. You know, if I'm looking more interested in cost information or resource information, if I want to look at, you know, who's assigned to which task. I have views for that as well. So there are a lot of nice views in Project Online. The nice thing also about Project Online is a lot of it is customizable, so I can create different types of reports using whatever project data that I have here. Speaking of resources, I know that that's an important topic for a lot of you is, you know, how do I know if my resources are fully utilized? How can I track when this programmer is going to have availability to work on this project? Or this developer is, you know, has nothing to do now, what else can I assign him? So there's a couple nice different views. This one only has a few resources, only the two of us. But I have views to show me my resource assignments and resource availability. So here I can see a view of what everybody in the organization, ideally, or anybody who is assigned a task, is doing. And it's broken out by project. So here you can see Bob has been assigned multiple tasks and multiple projects. So nice way to manage your project resources. And then I also have another view for resource availability, and that'll show me the availability, you know, of each resource depending on, you know, date range or whatever parameters I put in. We've got a webinar on just general resource management as well out there on YouTube if you're interested in that. Back to projects though, I want to show you a little bit more about just the Project Center. I showed you how you can drill down to one project and see the details down to the task view. There's a lot that I can do here looking at the overall view. This view and this page right here I think is so valuable for somebody who is managing multiple projects within their organization. Whether it's your organization or your department, it doesn't have to be your entire enterprise. But these are all the things that I have going on right now, you know, and here I can see when they're starting and when they're stopping. There's a few different views that are available, so right now I'm looking at the summary view. I may be more interested in the tracking view. This is one of my favorite. The tracking view shows me which projects are started, their percent complete, and then the baseline information. So how far from our plan are we? Remember how we talked about this is what I had planned to do, and this is what I'm actually doing. I can't scroll over anymore. This view will show me that. Let's see, the other thing that I wanted to show you, in addition to just the project information and just the task information, are the issues and risks. Before we get to that though, one objection that I wanted to talk about is one thing that I hear when people consider using Microsoft Project is they'll say, you know, Patty, I don't have the time to list out every single task that's going to go on in my project. I just, people know what they're going to do. I don't need to list it out for them, and that's fine. The detail that you saw in these projects vary from project to project. So my key piece of advice is that you certainly don't want to spend more time managing your project schedule than you do actually working on your project. So if your tasks are things like, install a server, that's fine. Keep in mind who's going to be working on the task. Somebody might be okay with a task that says, install server. Somebody else may need those individual subtasks linked out for them. So it depends not only on your resource that's doing that task, but also on the information that you want to get out of it at the end. So do you need that granular level of data, or are you okay with more of a high level, longer task? So it's just going to whatever works for your specific project and your organization. Now, Project Online uses what's called project sites. Project sites are a really great, little component, little add-on to your project schedule. A good friend of mine made a really great comparison. She says that the project schedule is like your house, and your project site is like your shed. It has all the extra stuff. So I love that analogy, and I completely agree with it. So your project schedule obviously is where all your tasks are. The project site is where everything else is. So anything related to the project that's not the project schedule. So you may have invoices from contractors. You may have illustrations that somebody sketched out. You may have pictures from whiteboards that you snapped on your smartphone. Things like that. Anything that's related to the project can go here in the project site. It's a great place for centralized communication, not a one-stop shop because I don't like that term, but centralized communication. It's got a nice news feed, so you can notify your entire project team instead of all of those emails and then reply to alls, and you've got a string of conversations that you can't find where it started. The news feed is a great place to start, a great place to store that information. You've got documents, so you can store any document, Word, Excel, PDF, what have you, here. And it's nice because, like I said, everything is in one place. You've got a calendar, you've got additional tasks, a project notebook, so a lot of extra things that you can use to support your project. I particularly like risks and issues, and we're talking about risks next month in the webinar. But a lot of folks are afraid to think about project risks, but really every project has a risk. You just have to think about it. And it's better to plan for those risks in case they might happen. So we'll talk about that in the webinar next month. But this is a great place to track your risks. I like tracking it here versus an Excel spreadsheet or a Post-it note on my wall because I can assign it to somebody. And then this appears in various views and reminders for them as well. So I can say, okay, this is the probability of this happening is, 75%. The impact is going to be astronomical, and I'm going to assign it to Bob to manage. Nice thing is you have a little description, and you also have an area for mitigation plan and contingency plan. So really thinking about, okay, what are the risks within this project? What could happen? And if that does happen, what are we going to do about it? Because if you have a plan, then you can react quickly. If you don't have a plan, then you'll be running around with a chicken. What is it? What's that?
Sucking air.
Yep. I used to have a friend that would say, run around with like a chicken with my legs cut off. Like, not the right. That's not the right one, is it? But
Is it the same chicken that got his head cut off?
I don't know. Maybe he just got his legs cut off and they spared his head.
The chicken.
I don't know. He was running around though. All right. Do we have any questions coming in on the chat?
Nope.
Okay.
So
great.
far, I've been pushing the questions that the audience here has been giving so that they hear it. But so far, we're good.
Okay, great. So what other questions do we have? I'm going to switch back to the project center view where I can see all my projects and just kind of show you a little bit about how we can add tasks and things like that. But while I do that, did you have a question?
Very basic questions. Is the tabs the same as in the other Microsoft programs where you can add a tab and put all your frequently used stuff on it? And is there any spot like up there where you can just have a quick link or whatever it's called?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All of this you can customize, and then this quick launch over here on the left you can customize as well. So you can either make it, I like to customize the quick launch so that it's the same for everybody in the organization, and have links to different areas, you know, maybe a link to, I don't know, a reporting tool or something that I use. So it doesn't have to be just within Microsoft Project. These links, or Microsoft Project Online, these links can link to anywhere. Yep, good question.
And do you have to manually save everything like most products, or I think like OneNote automatically saves it?
It does. Right now, you will be prompted to save, but I'm wondering if that's going to be an update in the near future, is where everything will just be dynamically saved. I don't know if you have any insight into that, Bob, but I could see that that'll be coming in the future.
Yeah, if you take a look, as far as data saving automatically, if you take a look at Office, Microsoft Office 2016, that is definitely there. When you open up a Word document and just start typing away, it's automatically saved, all that fun stuff. An application such as Project, it might be a little tougher to do because Project is actually your project files are actually all being saved as in SQL databases and all of that kind of fun stuff. There's a little bit more of transactional stuff that has to happen in terms of saving it. So I'm not sure whether, and there's the desktop client and then there's the online client. I'm not sure if it's going to change as quickly as the Office stuff will. Mm-hmm. So it may not be in the next version. And by the way, I should also point out that Microsoft is releasing a next version of Project. It will be probably early next year. So right now it's Project 2013, mm-hmm. The desktop version. Yeah, there will be a Project 2016 as well.
So it doesn't usually take place the same exact time as the regular Office suites?
The regular Office suite, the next version, will automatically save. So there's basically you close.
No, I mean like they don't come out with.
So they don't come out with the release versions in the same. No,
okay.
No. Office, when you talk about Office from Microsoft's standpoint, and this is Microsoft's in their naming convention. Whoever is doing this should just stop. But essentially, you've got the traditional Office, which we call, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Publisher. Oh, and Access. Oh, and blah blah blah.
OneNote.
Yeah, exactly, and OneNote. Okay, and so on and so forth. And then you've got these kind of hang-on products, Visio, Project, so on and so forth. Then you've got the server components, Exchange, SharePoint, now Skype for Business, Skype, Link, all of that sort of silliness. And even though they're kind of under the same product family, they have different schedules of release and totally different groups developing and maintaining them. Why? Because they like doing it that way. So, yeah. I'd ask if that answered your question, but if it did, you didn't understand what I just said. So.
I have a basic question. I'm
Sure.
going to look it up, but since I'm here, what's the difference between a NAT chart and a PERT chart?
So what's that?
A NAT chart and a PERT chart.
Oh, Let's see. Program evaluation review technique is your PERT chart, and your Gantt chart, I can't remember where that originated from. Somebody in the Navy, I think. I believe the Gantt chart is more detailed. The Gantt chart will show you the individual tasks, where the PERT chart is more of a technique for developing your project schedule. I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe Microsoft Project or Project Online has any PERT chart views. I don't believe it uses a PERT chart at all, but they use the Gantt chart heavily. Yep.
If I remember correctly, the whole concept of PERT and Gantt was actually invented around World War I, and it was primarily for monitoring the manufacturing of ammunition. The Navy was involved with it, and all that kind of stuff. But it really hasn't. That concept really hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No.
It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I wanted to show you just very briefly if you wanted to make a change to the project schedule. Okay. So let's say, to go back to one of the original questions earlier, was, what if I have, some tasks that I've identified that I want to add to my project schedule? Depending on who you are and what you have, there's a couple different options. So because in this example, I'm the project manager, I have Microsoft Project installed on my computer, I have the option when I go under Edit to where I can change my project in the browser, which means Project Online, or I can change it in Microsoft Project. Okay. I'm going to select in browser just so that you can see how to change it in Microsoft or in Project Online. Keep in mind, if you do have Microsoft Project Pro and you go back to Microsoft Project and you make your changes there, you just have to save and then do what's called a publish, which is just another mouse click, and that's what pushes everything out to this Project Online environment. And it sounds like an extra step, but that's actually designed intentionally so that the project manager can work in Microsoft Project, can make changes without constantly changing the project schedule for their users. And then once you have it, the way you like, then you can publish it and it updates that view. Okay. So I selected to make some changes here. Using my toolbar at the top, I can add, let's say that I want to add a couple days. I'm going to make that 7 days. Oops, 77 days. That's a difference. So I can make the changes. Just so you can see, I don't want to spend a lot of time making changes. Technically, it is supported in Project Web App, but maybe because I have Project installed. But once I make those changes, I can save and close it. Very similar to Microsoft, or very similar to SharePoint, when you have a project schedule in edit mode, it will say that it's checked out to you. So let's say that you've got multiple project managers that have access to the same project. So they all back up each other and things like that. If one project manager opens up a project schedule, it'll lock it for editing from the other project managers. That's not the case in Project Online with the $7 license, because technically people are only making changes to their own tasks, and technically they're not really even changing it until the project manager accepts it. So you can have multiple team members in the project making changes at the same time. The other thing that I wanted to talk about too in the last few minutes here is the difference between Microsoft Project and Project Online when managing multiple projects. So Microsoft Project is really good. It was designed to create project schedules. So if you've got a project to do and you want to schedule for it, you do it in Microsoft Project. However, it really only manages one project at a time. You can only open up one file, and it's much like Word and Excel, where all right, you can open up 2 or 3 files at the same time, but they don't really integrate very well together. You can't really link them. You can link tasks from one project to another, but you don't have that overall view of all the projects, and that's where Project Online comes in. Years ago, people used to have to turn to Project Server to get that information. So if you had lots of projects going on, or more than one project going on for that matter, you had to have Project Server in order to see your schedule of all of your projects. So now with Project Online, you don't need Project Server. We can use our list of projects here. Okay. And what I really like about this is all of these views, like I mentioned with the tracking view, all of these views are customizable, and all of these columns of data are customizable. So what I've seen that's really nice is you can break these projects out by whatever makes sense to you. So if you had, let's say, IT projects and sales projects and accounting projects, you can break them out and view it sort of by business line. Some folks like to see it by phase. So you can say, okay, this is the projects that are starting, these are the ones that are finishing, these are the ones that are whatever, done. You can break it out by project manager. So these are, the ones that each project manager is responsible for. So really, you have a lot of flexibility here to open up views that are available now to you for multiple projects or multiple initiatives within your organization. Are there any questions about that portion or anything you want to talk through with the multiple projects? Anything online? Pretty cool, right? I mean, Project Server used to be a fortune for the software, for the hardware to implement, for the folks to do it. So now with Project Online, it's all there for you. So let's see, we talked about this main page. This is called the Project Center, where I can see all of my projects. And we talked about how you can edit the views here to be able to be customized to what you need. We talked about how to drill down to one project detail, one project schedule. You can click on a project to view those details. We talked about how a team member, and I call them team members, just that was the terminology that was used years ago, and I can't break the habit, but basically anybody that's assigned to a task. We talked about how they can go in and view their list of tasks under the tasks view, and how that's broken out by project, which I really like, because as a team member I like to have all of my tasks listed by project, and then all those tasks in the next project and all those tasks. Okay. And you can see those are all my tasks. We talked about issues and risks. We didn't talk in detail about issues, but in the Project Online, it's handled very similarly to risks. So there's still the list of issues that you can have. You can still assign it to somebody, have a due date, etc. Very similar to risks there. We did talk about resources, but the one thing I wanted to mention with resources is it's really nice in Project Online because you can have what's called a project team, or used to be called a resource pool. Basically, it's your team of people that are going to be working on the project. And it makes it very easy for the project managers to be able to assign tasks to that pool of resources. And then from that pool, or from that list of resources, is where we get all that great information about resource availability and resource usage and things like that. Okay. Approvals is the one thing that we didn't talk about, so I just wanted to show that to you briefly. Approvals is where I can go as a project manager and review all the updates that I've received from my resources. So these are all the updates that folks have sent me saying, okay, I'm done with this task, or I'm not done with that one, or I need more time on this one. And this is where I can go through and approve and reject all of those. So I can select the ones that I want to approve and approve them, and those changes will be made in Microsoft Project next time I open that file. Or I can choose to reject them, and those changes are ignored. Okay. I can type in a message to my team saying I'm ignoring or rejecting your changes. And I'm taken back to the approval page where I can proceed with accepting or rejecting additional changes. If there are a lot of these, I can filter and group. I can set the date range, so depending on how your resources are updating, you may have a lot of updates to go through. That's another question that I'm asked often is, how often should I update my project schedule? Should I update it every time I work on a task, or is there a specific cadence? And I think it changes from project to project. If you're working on a project that takes 3 years, you might be okay with updating it every other week. If you're working on a project that's a month, maybe updating it every other week isn't the best idea, and you might want to do it a little bit more frequently. So it's up to you. One thing about the tasks view is if your team members prefer to update their tasks every day, let's say that I'm a team member and at the end of the day I just want to go through and update my tasks. They can actually save their updates and not submit them to the project manager until they're ready to. So they can make all their changes and they can save, but then they don't have to send the status until maybe the end of the week or whatever you decide. So that's pretty common. A lot of times we have weekly status meetings and we have the project schedule updated for those meetings. So folks can come in, enter their tasks. Some folks may want to do it every day. Some folks may want to just do it on Fridays 5 minutes before it's due. Whatever. Whenever they want, they can make all their changes and then they would send the status to the project manager or whoever's responsible. So I can send, and that sends the message. Now, the project manager, next time they open Project Online or Microsoft Project, they'll receive a message saying, hey, you have changes that need to be accepted or rejected. All right. I feel like I've been talking a lot. We have a few minutes. Are there any other questions or anything else that we can talk about regarding Project Online? Okay.
So the configuration and setup, is it better to do it on the laptop and then publish it out to online, or do it online and, well, if you do it online, it doesn't push back the other way?
It does. It does. If you have that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, if you have Project installed, and let's say somebody else creates a file online, you can still open it in Microsoft Project. Yep, absolutely. I prefer to use Microsoft Project to do to start my project schedule, just because I'm comfortable with it. It goes fast. I can type in my tasks. Like anything, I always compare it to using Outlook versus using Outlook Web Access. It's kind of nicer in Outlook, but Outlook Web Access sure is handy when you can access it on multiple devices. So it's sort of, having the best of both worlds is great. But then you may find that some folks in your organization don't really use Microsoft Project that much, and they could get away with just using Project Online. Or they could get away with using Project Lite, which is really nice because that's only $7. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and keep in mind that this kind of goes back to Microsoft strategies in general, and especially with the new management in line, is they're really trying to get neutral in terms of what you're working on. It's the data that matters, and the data in this case is the project. So if you've got the web browser that'll work with Project Online, it doesn't really even have to be a PC. You can do this on a Mac or the like, whereas as of this point in time, the only way to install Project is to install it on a PC. The actual on-prem local application is only valid. And just like Outlook Web Access versus Outlook versus on your phone versus whatever, each one of them has certain strengths. So Project, the desktop version of Project, has certain strengths that would appeal to the project manager. Project Online, for a specific project, Project Online has certain strengths that would appeal to management or someone who's managing multiple projects. And the nice thing is, between the subscription costs and the like, is you could literally have the same person have different tools, and depending on what they need to do, they use the tool that's most appropriate to that task, or whatever they prefer to do. So it's your classic Microsoft. They'll give you a bunch of different options and won't necessarily guide you to which one's best.
That's the key, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing is true when you look at when to use Lite, when to use this. You look at the Microsoft Online resources and they're like, how many would you like? not necessarily which ones should you use or should you not use and the like. And the same thing's true, and Patty mentioned the project server. You know, even a smaller implementation of project server, you're probably looking at between $15,000 and $25,000. When you talk about the capital, the software, the investment, and then you've got you're managing, you're maintaining it, all that kind of fun stuff. And that's great. This will essentially do that instead. And you're just going to be paying a monthly fee for the number of users you want the license for. No capital investment, no hardcore software investment. First, you get the updates as they happen. It's really a cool thing. And Microsoft really has not done a great job in terms of communicating this product out to the project management world, which is why we're doing what we're doing here.
And which is why we offer
Project management.
the Project Management Makeover Workshop. So if you're interested in this and don't really know where to start, or this sounds like something that you might use and want to chat more, certainly feel free to reach out to me, give me a call or shoot me an email, and we'll talk about how this might best fit into your organization. Maybe sit down and really think about, okay, if I'm going to buy these licenses, who really needs Microsoft Project versus Project Lite, and where can I save money, and talk about maybe a training strategy and a rollout strategy for you. So.
And let me stress that this is especially true to the online folks, and especially a couple of folks. I'm not sure if you've been on one of our webinars or lunchinars before. Simplex IT, one of our core values is we share our information. This is as strong as an arm twist as you're going to get in terms of getting you to buy something from us. We feel, and we feel also, we're not the consulting company that's going to figure out how do we charge 80 hours of billing time or anything along those lines. It's extremely flexible to work with us. There's no cost for this offering from Patty, and we can tailor to fit your budget. So please take advantage of this. We think it's a great opportunity, especially for those organizations who are teetering on that. We manage projects, but we really don't do project management.
Mm-hmm.
One thing also about the project software, you can actually get it on a 30-day basis. So you can actually get it so you renew it month to month, and you can cancel it any month. So you can take the plunge for just $100 or a couple $100 and get the software installed for a couple of months to make sure it's what you need and what you want for your organization, and then you can choose to extend it for a full annual subscription. So there's a lot of flexibility here without a whole heck of a lot of risk, and we think it's great for the small medium businesses, and we hope people take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Wow, it's 12:59. We're almost going to end on time.
I'm a project manager. Of course we will.
Sure.